You're listening to the Compassion Fatigue Podcast with your host, Jennifer Blau, Session 21. My guest today is the creator of the documentary SMART, Specialized Mobile Animal Rescue Team. Justin Zimmerman is a nationally recognized writer, filmmaker, and professor. His narrative and documentary work have appeared in film festivals across the globe and have been broadcast on national public television, where he has won 2 international television awards. He's been the recipient of multiple grants and fellowships, and his script and comic work have been optioned on multiple occasions. Zimmerman's first festival film appearance was in 2001, and since then, his work has appeared in festivals across the world and in almost every state, winning numerous awards. His projects have been distributed worldwide, including his latest feature-length documentary, SMART. Ladies and gentlemen, here to talk about his latest film, please welcome Justin Zimmerman. Hey, Justin, welcome to the Compassion Fatigue Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is going to be just a really interesting conversation. And for those of you who have not yet seen Justin's latest movie, I guarantee that after this conversation, you will. So, Justin, tell us about your latest project, SMART.
Yeah, it's called SMART, the Specialized Mobile Animal Rescue Team. And basically, we spent 3 years following this extreme rescue group in the city of Los Angeles. They do zipline rescues, rappelling, swift water, helicopter, and they literally rescue cats from trees. They're a mobile animal rescue team. So, they're responsible, to give or take 14 of them, for the entire city of LA's animal population, which is, roughly 4 million people. They are trained for a variety of different situations. And because Los Angeles is the Wild West of animal rescue, I mean, we've got them getting a cougar out of a basement. They rescue a deer from the back of Pee Wee Herman's backyard. They airlift a horse out of a dam in a helicopter. But they're also 50, 60, 70 feet up off the ground in trees, grabbing cats underneath buildings, pulling dogs out. They have to be ready for just about anything. We found their stories to be captivating and compelling, and we also were delighted to, in a sense, embed with it. We became part of their extended family unit and really worked with them to tell their personal stories as well. So SMART, besides being kind of an action-adventure animal rescue piece, is also a love story, and it also delves into the sacrifice that these folks are making because they take these animals' lives as their personal responsibilities in Los Angeles. So I'm so excited that it is now out. I mean, we shot and edited for 3 years. We had a year of film festival presentations. We won 7 international film awards and were nominated for 5 more. We screened in over 30 theaters. We did a bunch of partner and charity events, but now it's everywhere. Just last week, it came out on iTunes and Xbox and Google. It's out on Amazon DVD and streaming. And it's really exciting for me because now people are getting to engage with it and learn from it. And I'm getting tons of feedback, which is just extraordinary.
And I am just so grateful for you, really kind of shedding a light on this industry, because I'm a former animal control officer. And really, I think a lot of the public still views them as glorified dog catchers. And I think what this film does is it really, kind of highlights some of the situations that these people really do go through and how they put their lives on the line. They put their heart and soul into rescuing these animals. And so I think the story is absolutely fascinating. And what inspired you to create a documentary about this team?
So I've been a filmmaker for over 15 years, and I'm really drawn to personal stories. And in this case, these were a group of individuals who were on the front line of something that nobody really understood. It was very inspirational to see the Armando Navarrete, Net Ramirez, and the rest of the team, their kind of extended family, sacrificing and risking so much for something that they personally believed in, something that, as you mentioned, a bunch of society doesn't really understand or care about much at all. It was only later, once we were introduced to them and kind of got a sense of who they were in Los Angeles, that the whole animal control aspect kind of kicked in. They are animal control officers, and they just take it as a personal purview that their responsibilities lie a little bit above and beyond kind of what a traditional response would be if an animal was in jeopardy. During the course of the film, though, I mean, especially working with Leslie Irvine, who's a sociologist at the University of Colorado Boulder, really learning about how animal rescue is an essential part of basically our societal responsibility. In Katrina, people wouldn't leave without their animals, which meant that the human rescue workers were under a huge duress. How could they rescue individuals who wouldn't leave their animals behind? Yet they're not trained for animals, for fight and flight. So we began to see not only that these folks were heroes in their own right, kind of modern day superheroes, but they were also on the forefront of perhaps a new national conversation, which is, if we have dogs and cats and we have created them in a sense to love us, and then we of course love them. I spend billions of dollars every year on our pets. Half of all United States households have a dog and a cat, and most of them consider those family members. But what is our responsibility as a society when it does come to rescue, when it does come to natural disaster, when it does come to overpopulation? So it's a long answer to kind of a short question, but as soon as I met the individuals and as soon as my team and I began to get the larger scope of what they represented, we knew it wasn't going to be a short project or a pilot or something that we just kicked around in with. It was something that we were going to commit to. And that's why we spent so many years in the field with them, telling this story to the best of our ability. But, you don't have to be jumping out of a helicopter to be an animal rescuer. You can adopt, you can foster, you can make sure your pets are microchipped. You can basically be part of the societal responsibility. But spaying and neutering is such a gigantic thing. And I think that's where a lot of animal control officers get caught in the crossfire, because they're on the front line of a very unpopular issue, but it's not their fault. The fact that there are so many cats and dogs in our society is a societal issue. And for its part, I hope that SMART helps people understand that through the rescue workers and their struggle.
So you said that you spent, 3 years with the crew?
We started working with them in 2012. It was extraordinary. Yeah. So it was 3 years in the field before we had our first friends and family screening of SMART.
I'm sure you became really embedded in like their lifestyle, right? So I'm sure that you were exposed to a lot of the things that, most people aren't even aware of, right? They can't even wrap their heads around. And some of these experiences are very tragic. I mean, we see a lot of happy endings in the film, but I'm sure, 3 years, you saw some pretty rough stuff, right? So how did making this film change or impact you?
I've been a caseworker, and certainly being a documentarian for 15 years, doing some pretty intense work. I am, I'd say, a little bit more trained for dealing with tough situations. There's also, frankly, a added responsibility when you're a filmmaker, because you're trained to make sure that the shot is in focus, the framing is good, that you're doing your job correctly in the field, so that when you come back and you edit, you have all the material that you need. So there's a little bit of a barrier. I can't say a disconnect, but certainly a barrier, which helps in field work. But it is an extraordinary thing to be in the midst of a rescue where lives are on the line, and not just the lives of the animals, but lives of the people too. The greatest statistical casualty of rescue workers are rescue workers themselves, because of course they are so involved in what's going on at the time. So you're out there, you're caring about the animals, and you're caring about your friends, but you're all doing your job. And that's where the training and the responsibility comes in. I don't mind sharing with you that as we got deeper and deeper into the film, the whole idea of the kennel system and overpopulation, especially in Los Angeles, became more and more of a factor. And so on one of the shoots where the rest of my crew had gone back home, I just said, today is the day that I'm going to personally film every single animal in the larger shelter where the SMART team at the time was housed. And so I went around to every single one of the kennels, and I got a professional moment with every single animal. About halfway through, I just walked back to the smart office. I sat down and I just started crying. I'm not a big crier. It's several years between like really losing it. Maybe an animated film, a Pixar film here or there will get me, but it's just not my natural inclination. But the fact that I was right there and filming this tiny aspect, it felt huge to me at the time, but the tiny aspect of this huge issue just nailed me. All that training, all that responsibility, all that thought, I just had to take a moment. And then I kind of wiped my face and went back and I filmed the rest of them. But the long and the short of it is that there are many, many issues in society. And there are many, many issues that are at hand, and they all are worthy of attention. And I think a lot of people have a difficult time dealing with that. There are so many things going on in their own life that they're not sure how to take that larger responsibility for something else. That's where I really feel documentaries and your work in media can be so important, because by the time you get to that point in the film, it's pretty late on, where the team members are talking about going out and rescuing a cat and then having to come back and seeing all the cats in the shelter, knowing that if every animal in the shelter was adopted, it would be filled the next day. By the time you get to that point in the film, you're so integrated with the characters themselves that it's not you kind of looking at it. It's you looking at it through the eyes of the team members. And I think that helps make it more, it removes you a little bit, but it also helps you kind of connect to the issue, because it's not you versus an issue. It's you and the team versus an issue. So if that's not too crazily out there, it's the kind of the basis of making films to me. You don't want to hit somebody over the head with, this is an issue and we all need to deal with it right now or else. What you need to do is say, hey, listen, there are people out there, they're dealing with this, they're confronting this, it's important to them. I'm going to tell you their story. I'm going to tell it in an engaging and cool and visual way. Now, maybe it's important to you too. Maybe you can back them up out there a little bit. And I think that's hopefully how media affects change. But it has to start with great characters. It has to start with a great film. It has to start with a lot of work. And that's where 3 years plus a year of film festivals turns into 75 minutes. And then you walk out into the light and you decide what you're going to do next.
Well, what I really love about this film is not only are you bringing awareness to the really important work that these unsung heroes do day in and day out. And this is not just with the SMART team. I mean, this is all over the country, all over the world, right, with ACOs. But you also bring awareness to compassion fatigue, and it makes it real, right? So did you know about this concept of compassion fatigue before you started the project? And I know you shared with us kind of, breaking down in the shelter there. Did you find yourself kind of struggling at all with any compassion fatigue as you were filming this?
So compassion fatigue as a concept, I think people who are caseworkers or professors or teachers, all of which I've been there, have some kind of cursory understanding of. As a term and as a specific idea, absolutely not. I learned about that during the course of the film. As I got more and more into the individuals' lives and their struggles, some of these things kind of popped out. And actually, one of the rescuers, Reds, talks about that very specifically in the film. And that's why interviews are so great, because hopefully if you're a good director, you're learning while you're directing the film, especially in a documentary. And this was something that I learned about working with the team themselves. The way that it's contextualized in the film, Armando Navarrete is this hugely influential person. He's the leader of the team. He's kind of built this. He's the heart and the soul in many, many ways. One of his early rescues where they weren't able to save an animal really struck him. And it was the first inkling of the idea that, yeah, this is exciting and it's neat and it's cool and there's gadgets and all this other stuff. But not only are their lives on the line, but sometimes those stories with those lives on the line don't have happy endings no matter what you do. Now, you build that up over a career or a lifetime. People develop coping mechanisms and people develop ways to kind of mentally deal with that. But at the same time, it's always going to be this really powerful understanding that no matter what you do, the amount that you care won't always give you the kind of ending that you're looking for. So that balance is so essential and so key. And you can't always have that balance, not when you're in the field, not when you're dealing with this stuff. So it was something interesting to me to see how the different individuals on the SMART team who are doing this very highly visible, very neat, very amazing stuff have to wrestle with this on a regular basis. And if those folks are wrestling with it, the people who are doing the most good and are the most active and are the most trained, then boy, anybody who cares deeply about something is going to have to wrestle with that as well. For me personally, if I'm not emotionally involved in something that I'm doing, then I'm not doing a very good job of it. A project like this, which was created by a small group of people with their blood, sweat, and tears who are committing their free time outside of normal work, traveling while their families were back at home. I mean, we lived and breathed this film. You can probably tell from my voice, you can probably tell from my answers that I'm deeply committed to the work that I do, this film and this team. And it was difficult to come back and be away from them and be editing all this stuff together, because I was telling their story, sometimes a very sad and difficult story, but I didn't have the luxury of having my team, them, with me. So it was very it could be considered as kind of a lonely process, but that's why the film team needs to be the film team, because we have a different job to do. We have a different kind of rescue to manage. And that is, we needed to make a great film to back up this team. And rescue's not really too weird of a word. They don't have a lot of support. They don't have a lot of backing. They really are on the front line of this thing and are struggling every year, I think, to keep their team strong and going and building. And there's not a lot of them for that huge responsibility. So we wanted to make a film that hopefully would in some way save their team. More people who know about their team and know about them, will care about them and back them up. And hopefully they'll be bigger and better because of this. And hopefully there'll be a lot more teams everywhere because of the film as well.
Definitely. And you had mentioned earlier in our interview that these guys, they're really family for you. And so I imagine it really had to be hard to kind of step away from that. Could you share with us, I'm sure there were a lot of difficult parts when you were making this film, but emotionally speaking, what would you say the most difficult was for you?
That's a very serious question, and I give you two very serious and probably much too long-winded answers. But I'll tell you this: the most difficult part of this film for me was not being involved in the rescues. So, early on, these folks have been scouted by reality television people. They've been on the news. They're very used to kind of conventional media. And the first time we filmed with them, they asked us when we were going to start filming, and we'd had 2.5 hours of footage. We were a very different kind of film unit than what they were used to. We're documentarians. That's what we do. Unobtrusive, thoughtful, methodical, and it's our responsibility to capture what's happening, not make what's happening in front of us different. So in a reality television show, someone will say that again, or let's do a reenactment, or can you try this, or now say this instead. None of that with us. Of course, we're real filmmakers making a real documentary. But really early on, there was a cat, and they thought it was in the attic. And so we were getting this beautiful photography, and I figured out, well, Tori, the director of photography, was kind of filming the scene at the time, that the cat was actually underneath the house and the sound was traveling up through the wall. And so I said, no, I think it's in the basement. I heard this little kitten crying, and I was like 100% ready to climb underneath this house and go grab this cat. I would have screwed up my film shoot. I would have destroyed the scene. I would have put myself in some kind of, at least introductory danger, because I didn't have any equipment on to go climbing underneath the home. And they said, no, we've got this. We're ready. And it's a beautiful scene in the film. It's you'll absolutely see that rescue occur actually during the course of the SMART film.
You missed your calling, Justin.
They saw me ready to in a sense blow my own film scene, and they said, this is somebody who really gets it, who understands what we're doing and understands that human impulse to go help. So that was great. And to me, like, to me, covering the rescues was amazing. Not only shooting, but also the director, working with a team. But it was very difficult because I actually wanted to be hands-on doing exactly the same thing. Fortunately, my calling is film, so I was able to be a part of this world. Boy, oh boy, you're out there and you hear that cry, and you just want to do something immediately. Postscript, of course, is that there is a really great scene underneath a house where a dog gets rescued, and on that shoot, I was crawling right next to them, filming the entire thing. So I actually did get underneath the house by the time the shoot was done.
Yeah, and I am so grateful to you that this actually turned out to be a documentary rather than a reality TV show. It keeps it real, and gosh, the subject, it's too important to be, oh, what's the word I'm looking for that wouldn't be too offensive?
Glossed over, maybe?
Yeah, it's too important, so I'm so thankful that you kept it real.
I'm a documentarian. I'm a filmmaker first and foremost, and I would never sign up in a million years for a reality television approach. I mean, you've seen these before. There's an animal, something bad's going to happen. The people come, they save it. It's manipulated. It's false, and it doesn't begin to scratch the surface of the issues at hand. And we have a responsibility. When you're a documentarian, you have a responsibility to tell the truth. You have a responsibility to connect with a group of people and then to responsibly tell their story, no matter, warts and all, to the best of your ability to really showcase the truth. And if we hadn't had that commitment, we wouldn't have found out about 90% of the cool aspects of the film. And so we're proud about that, but it's just a professional philosophy. It's just why we do what we do. And that's what makes us who we are as filmmakers. So from myself to Kim to Tori to Doug to Zach to John, that's how we approach our work. And we're proud to be where we're at with the film, because it is changing people. It is affecting people. And none of that would happen if it wasn't a documentary.
So what would you say was the most rewarding part about filming this?
To me, it's now. The film ends in a very uncertain place, and we'll let people experience that themselves. But even though the film has been done for a year or so, technically speaking, out in festivals and us finishing all the post-production to get it ready for its national release, the team's in exactly the same place. And in a sense, the film is continuing on right now. The way people are watching it, interacting with it, the way that it's being interviewed and reviewed, the way that it is being showcased across the country and in some other countries, that's all still affecting them. It's still affecting my team and their position in the city of LA. It's helping get their message to other people. Other teams are now training with them. Other teams are now starting up because of this. So the most exciting thing for me is that we made a film that didn't really end when it came out. It's just the beginning. And that's an exciting place to be as someone who actually wants to affect some social change and actually back up the folks who are the lead in the film. I'm truly, truly excited to see what is going to happen next, not only for Armando and Annette and the rest of the SMART team, but also for the concept of animal rescue itself. And again, when you make something, you hope that it is going to affect some change, that it is going to provide some sense of entertainment and an illumination for an audience. And in this case, it's happening. It's not mine anymore. It's not in my hands anymore. It's in the public's. And I'm just very excited to see what the public is doing and will do with SMART now that it is out.
And so what do you hope that people do take away from this film?
It's very difficult for me when I see, I've just talked quite a bit about how much I feel responsible as a documentarian, but it's very difficult when I see a documentary that showcases an issue and then doesn't give you anything to do with it. I'm sure you've seen these films. They're long, they're brutal.
It leaves you hopeless.
You are done. So, okay, thank you. The entire world is a mess. Everything is destroyed, and there's nothing to do. But there's always something to do. And SMART gives, I think, very specifically tools to the audience to go and help affect change. It identifies characters that are amazing. It is a roller coaster ride of a film, so it's very entertaining. But it also showcases that these folks, and in a sense, society has some big issues here with companion animals, dogs and cats, and animal rescue. And instead of saying, okay, that's it, feel bad, it says, here are things you can do to get involved. Here are ways that you can back up animal rescue teams and just simply dogs and cats out there in your community and in the wider world. And it says it's okay to be upset and frustrated by these issues, but it's not okay to be hopeless. There's plenty to do, and you as an audience member and as a viewer can get out and start doing it. So it's, again, pretty remarkable to watch a film in a theater with hundreds and hundreds of people and have them laugh and cry and get involved and read the film and then stand up and say, okay, now I'm going to go get involved in my community. And
Wow, yeah.
one of my proudest moments to see that occur over and over and over again this past year.
And so for our listeners who have not yet seen this movie, where can they find it?
What's cool about Smart is that it is now just about anywhere. Our website is smartmoviedoc.com. The film is Smart, Specialized Mobile Animal Rescue Team. So you plug that into your browser. It's on iTunes, it's on Xbox, it's on Amazon. You can stream it or you can buy your very own DVD. It's on Google Play, it's on Walmart's Vudu, and all of those portals are right there on our website. We're also a Facebook Smart documentary, so you can find us and check in. You can see the pictures of our film festivals, our partner events, the fundraisers we've done, and keep in touch with us as we continue to spread the film throughout the country and the world. But in every way, shape, or form, the film is made for people to sit down, watch, enjoy, and think about. And so I'm looking forward and continue to look forward to hearing from people as they interact with it.
Yes, and have a box of tissue handy. This film will tug at your heart in a good way. So, Justin, how can people learn more about you and what you do?
Well, there is at smartmoviedoc.com, there are a list of all the individuals who worked on the film. There's a link to my personal website at the bottom, or you can go to brickerdown.com, which is my film production company's website. You can look at my reel, some of my other work. A lot of my documentary work is for free on my website, so you can kind of see my path to Smart. And again, we're excited about hearing what people think about the film. So no matter where they watch it, whether or not it's on Xbox or iTunes or Google, or even if they're on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, give us a review. Let us know what you think. We're excited to hear how it impacts people out there in the world.
Very cool. Well, Justin, I'm going to put all those links up on our show notes page at thecompassionfatiguepodcast.com in case people want to check those out at a later time. Justin, thank you so much for taking the time today to come on and chat with us about this really important project. I really appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate the great questions and also your beautiful review of the film. A film doesn't work unless people watch it, engage with it, and talk about it. And I can't thank you enough for spreading the word.
Yeah, well, let's get people talking about this. Thanks, Justin. You have a good one.
You too.
Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Compassion Fatigue podcast. Please head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show so you never miss a single episode. And don't forget to check out the CompassionFatiguePodcast.com for additional resources, including a link to join our private Facebook group where you can connect with other listeners. Please note that this podcast is not meant to provide medical advice or substitute for psychological care. Please consult with a mental health professional if you feel you need additional support, and if you are feeling suicidal, please go to your nearest emergency room or call 911.